Kizito will be the second survivor who will share his testimony today. Mr. Kizito Kalima was born in Nyanza, Rwanda. He was the last born of 10 children. In 1994, the Kalima family was devastated by a genocide that claimed many of his family members, including both of his parents, his sister, along with nieces and nephews. Displaced by genocide and without knowledge of surviving family members, Kizito found refuge in sports. While playing basketball in Kenya and Uganda, he was invited to participate in a basketball tournament in the US and soon earned the opportunity to attend Providence St. Mel High School in Chicago. After high school, Kizito went on to attend Indiana University in South Bend, where he earned his BA in criminal justice in 2005. Kizito currently serves as a senior case manager for the public state program called Impact, designed to help individuals with barriers such as criminal record to achieve economic self-sufficiency. Additionally, Kizito is a co-founder of a Mahoro Project for Forgiveness and Reconciliation, a grassroots movement committed to advocate for peace and forgiveness through reconciliation. Kizito resides in Indianapolis, Indiana, with his wife and their adopted Rwandan teenagers, who are also genocide survivors. Mr. Kalima?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming to support us. This means a lot to us, especially genocide survivors. You don't understand how we feel when you guys supporting us, at least paying attention to what we said. As they said, my name is Kizito Kalima. I go by Z, that's my American name. And I'm one of the luckiest person in this world who lived through genocide, survived genocide, and I'm able to talk about it. So, my genocide story started 1994, April 6 exactly. I was at home, teenagers, during the Christmas break. I heard on radio that the president of Rwanda has been killed. As a young boy, a teenager, I just ran towards my parents' bedroom, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, guess what? The mini president died. Like as everybody else who grew up in Rwanda under oppression regime. My mom got up, and she was so scared and terrified, and she said, son, be careful. Anytime a leader of Rwanda dies or any leadership changes, the Tutsis pay a big price. So be prepared to die. So teenagers, I thought my mom was just being umukecuru. So umukecuru means old lady. So a couple days later, my house was attacked. I was sitting on my back porch, and I saw a bunch of soldiers and the police, gendarmerie that time, came, and I was sitting on the bottom stairs, like here, and I saw somebody standing on top of me with a gun. So what I did, I just ran away. I took off and I jumped over the fence, and I went and hid around the... It's good? All right. I'm sorry. I went and hid around my house. So when I came back, later on, I found my house was destroyed, the pillows, papers, the window broken, everything. So I was terrified and scared. And what I did, I just fled my area, went to another village called Kigoma, which is like 15 miles away from where I was. I went to live with a guy called Munyaneza. This is a Hutu guy my dad raised, and he grew up with us. So he was like a brother to me. I went there, I stayed there. When I got there in the middle of the night. The following day, the militias or the killers found out I was there. His little brother, who was hanging out with the killers, came and he told us that they would come to get me in the middle of the night. So Munyaneza, he decided that I should return home to my old place. So he said, I will take you, I'll go with you, but we have to make sure that we don't get caught. So there was no way we could go back home without passing the checkpoints. So what he did, he decided that we're gonna dodge the checkpoints and take the back roads. So between his house and my house, there was a small river. So we tried to dodge the checkpoints, and we tried to cross the river, but it was in the middle of the night. So he said we didn't know how deep this river was. What we did, we waited until the sun came out, like 6 o'clock in the morning. When we were crossing the river, the militias or the killers spotted us, saw us. Like 50 people came from nowhere. So they grabbed us. They started kicking us, punching him, and he tried to fight, but they broke his arm. They hit him and they broke his arm and they pushed him away. So they took me on top of the hill where they were killing people. I got there, I found a bunch of dead bodies, and I was scared and I was terrified. One killer grabbed my shirt and grabbed the machete and went ahead to chop my head off. So I saw the machete coming, and I just did like this. The machete went all the way here, and the edge of it went and just cut me deep, and the blood started gushing out. That's why I have an afro. I have a deep, that's my protection. So, of course, I fainted. I passed out, and I was left in dead ditch bodies. Woke up a couple hours later. I tried to walk. When I was walking, like 50 feet, other killers got me. They took me to prison, and in the middle of the night, they took me to a killing site. When I got there, at this moment, I know I was going to die. At this moment, I've made peace with the Lord. I say, I'm going to die, but I have decided that I'm not going to get shot. I'm not going to be chopped by a machete. Now I'm looking for a bullet. So any chance I'll get, I was just run away so I can get shot. So we got to this killing site. I found my entire family, cousin, uncles, laying down, being chopped off, kids being smashed on the ground. And I sat there for a minute, and I just took off. When I took off, they started shooting, but they didn't get me. So I continued going to my old place. I was confused. I didn't know why I was going back to my old place. I get there, and of course, nobody was there. I went to my neighbor, who was a Hutu, and I asked him if they can hide us, if he can hide me. He said, no, we cannot hide you here because they are looking for you and your family. But you can go to the church. Your mom and the rest of the family is still there. So it was like a half a mile from my house where the Seventh-day Adventist church was. I walked there, and that time I didn't have shoes or any. They have taken my shoes and they have taken my sweater. I just have a shirt and a jeans and with no shoes. And it was rainy season. I walked to the church. When I got there, I found my mom. Of course, she cried. She saw me. She wiped off the blood. This time my head is this big. I'm still bleeding. And my mom gave me her sweater, and she said, son, I don't want you here. They're looking for you. Please go. So I went and hid around the church. And then later on, I ended up in this unfinished house belonging to a Hutu guy called Dominic. So when I was there, the next morning, Dominic came to work on his house. He came, and when I saw him, I thought he was going to kill me. And he came to me. He was a born-again Christian, and I told him, please don't kill me. Feed him. I was hungry. This like on third day, and I was so hungry. So he just said, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to talk to your mom and let your mom that you're here. So he went and talked to my mom in the church, and my mom came in the middle of the night. She came, pray with me, pray for me, give me a hug, and she said, whoa, sorry. She said, I survived a lot of wars. This is like her third time, her fourth time she been through the walls. She said, I know I'm not going to survive this time, but if you survive, you'll be a man. She just gave me a hug, turned around, and she just left. So, the morning after, the mayor of our city, Celeste Ugirashevza, he lives in Oxford, London right now, England. He came with a microphone, and he announced that the war is over, and everybody should come out of hiding. So, when he said that, of course, I was hungry. I just got out. I said, let me go get somebody. Somebody's going to feed me. So I went, we got at the church, and he told us that he's going to take us to his office, which was like 20 miles away from where we are. So we walked in the middle of the highway. If you guys are familiar with the Kigali Butare, that's where I used to live.
We walked like 5 miles. We got in the middle. He said, you know what? I'm going to keep you here. So they have prepared a house, I mean, big house for us to be in there. So they pull us in there, and they'll come get it one by one, educated, all, grown-ups. And on that day, they decide to come and finish off everybody. So as I mentioned before, at this moment, I know I'm going to die. But I was willing to die by a bullet, not a machete, because machete hurt so bad. I was still feeling it. So I said, I'm going to run, you're going to shoot me. So when the killers came, the militias came, all of us, especially the young ones, we took off. We just run. You guys are familiar with Rwanda. Everything's on top of the hill, and you got to run down the hill. So as we were running down the, down the hill, the one guy I was running with, he got hit by a bullet. He got shot in his back. So he fell down. And the impact, the bullet got me so bad that I felt that I was shot. So I fell down too. And I started rolling down the hill, and I found myself in a valley in banana plantation, Muruto Chihashi. So, and I called, and I got into the banana plantation, and I was like, oh, thank God, I survived this one. While I was there for like 30 minutes, I started hearing the dogs barking. So the killers are using the hunting dogs to find us. So they come, the dogs found me. They got me. So the kid I called him Pisi came, and he asked me if I have money. I gave little money I had. My mom gave it to me. And he tied my arm on my back, and he held a pistol on my head, and he another one with the bullet, with the ichiwa handle, a baseball bat. So he took me on top and brought me back to where we were hiding, which was by the main highway. So I came back on the main highway, and I found a line of cars loading people. Everybody who was caught, they just loading him. So I saw one guy pushing my mom, and he opened a trunk. It was a small car, Nissan Datsun, a neon looked like a car. And he opened the trunk and took my mom and kicked my mom inside. Closed the trunk and he drove away. That's the last time I saw my mom. She was taken away and was killed at the mayor's office, in the bed in mass grave. So I was there. I felt defenseless. I felt like I left my mom down as a supposed man. I was supposed to fight for my family, but I was a young boy. I didn't know if I was able to fight. So now the cars are full. They don't have a place for me. They say, even though that time I was a teenager, I was almost, I was tall. I was like a 6'2". So they didn't have a place for me the way they can pull me. So they decided to take me back to this prison. When they took me back there, they were saying, we're going to get you on the second round. I will stay there. And at the middle of the night, I looked through the window, and I saw the killers who was guarding us, sitting around the fire, drunk. So pretty much they are out of it. So I told the kids, I was my cousin, I said, man, let's get out of here. We're going to die, but we can't just sit there and wait until they chop our head off. So we opened the back door, and we took off. So we ran, and of course they heard us running. They kept chasing us, but we ran and kept running, and we ended up in the swamps, Mujishanga. So we stayed there. We kept going, and we were going until in the deep valley, in deep swamps, and we found a higher ground. So we stayed there from mid-April to late June. Asking me what I ate, God knows. We started in the beginning, we were drinking this swampy water, some yellowish water, ate grasses, we ate, fresh cones. But by May, I don't remember exactly, but by May, my body has given up. I could not hear, I could not see, I was out of it. So, RPF in Hotanyi have captured the country, but because I was so sick and tired, I didn't even know. It took us at least 2 weeks to find us. So until one of my cousins saw one of the RPF soldiers come downstairs to fetch water by the small river, and he said, that he grabbed a small rock and he rolled himself. Of course, I could not hear, I could not see. He rolled himself. He said, the war is over. And I started shaking my head because I remembered that, what the mayor did. They said they are calling us to come out. So he was so brave, and he went and talked to to the soldiers, and they came pick me up. I was a skeleton. I was dying. I was out of it. And they took me back to their own makeshift clinic. They fed us. They fed me. They take care of me. And of course, now the war is over. My house is destroyed. I don't have nowhere to go. So I went, to refugee camp, institution. And when the school started, I went back to school. But when I went back to school, I was an angry boy. I was angry. I was sad. And I couldn't take anything from anybody. So I got to school. I used to be the nice kid, polite kid. I got there. I got into my school principal. I got kicked out. So right now, I don't have nowhere to go. I don't have nobody to go to. So I went, stay with friends, family, found another school. But by November 1995, I was on the verge of mental breakdown. I was crying. I was fighting. I just got to the point where suicide was the only option. So with the help of God and friends, this idea came to my mind that I need to leave the country. So some of my brothers and sisters have fled Rwanda in the late 80s and early 90s. They went to live in Kenya and Tanzania. So I figured out how to get a bus ticket, and I took off. I went to Kenya. I didn't know what I was going, but I said, I'm going to find my brother. Went to Kenya, things didn't work out. I went to Tanzania to stay with my sister. Things didn't work out. I came back to Kenya, and whatever was going, I just tried to kill time. So whatever I was, sports became a refuge to me. The basketball became like a medicine. Anytime I get a chance to play basketball in the street, in somebody's backyard, whatever, in East Africa where I was going, they speak Swahili. I was not good in Swahili at that time, but if I could dunk, everybody would take me in. So I started playing, and everybody was like, "Oh, you have a talent. You have a talent." And later on, while I was in Kenya, somebody connected me to school in Uganda. And this school in Uganda provided me, had all these sports programs, and they provided me with the sports. I play any sports they could, I could get my hands on. I play volleyball, basketball, run a marathon. But I was trying to stay busy so I don't have to remember what happened to me. So a year later, I started receiving a letter from America, from colleges here. Everybody's interested in me, and I was given an opportunity to come to try out in 1998. Got a school in Chicago, finished high school, and while I was in high school, I started having a lot of injuries. I was spraining my legs, broke my wrist, hurt my back, and when I went to college, I ruptured my Achilles tendon. So that was my NBA dreams. So that's my NBA dream just was over. So, but I managed to finish school. That was what most important for me. I managed to finish school, and while I was in school, everything looks perfect outside. I was an athlete. I had a job, had a car, had a permit. So everything looks good outside, but inside, I had there was a conflict. So every time I was just angry, I was sad enough because I tried to pretend to be this cool kid, basketball player. Don't want nobody to know where I came from or what happened to me. Because I just felt guilty that 10 people that live in the swamps, they think I'm a goose or something. So, one day when I was coming from school and work, I blacked out. My body just got warm and started sweating, and just felt a little weird, and I blacked out. So I pulled over, waited to see what was going on, but I couldn't understand exactly what it was. So I drove to my house, and I got into my house. I stayed. I took some, headache medicine, and next day I went to see the school nurse. So somebody before have told me that it's not just a headache, because I used to have migraine headaches like 5 days a week. And somebody else said, it's not just a headache. So this school nurse, I guess she was tired of me going there for headache medicine. She said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." It's like, "Have you ever been any traumatic event, such as fire, car accident?" I said, I was like, "Yeah, I survived genocide." Just simple. She was like, "Okay, you need to seek a professional help. It's not just a headache. it's not the headache. You are facing a serious problem, so you need to find out how you can get help. So I started, of course, this was like third time somebody told me about it. And I said, I need to find help. So I started looking for professional help, and I started reading a lot. Reading about people who overcame wars, survived the Holocaust. And I got to the point where I was able to stand in front of you like this and talk to you without pounding or cursing or yelling. And later on, I moved out the way I was living. Of course, I was a device, just make sure, stay away from negative forces. Anybody who tried to put you down, make sure you stay positive. So I moved to another city, I got a job. And when I was there, when I felt so good about myself, I started wondering, about other kids. Say, okay, how many kids out there who have similar issues but can't talk about it or don't have courage to talk about it? So I took upon me, I said, I'm going to be a mentor. I started talking to everybody I know. Of course, I started with my friends. I had friends who bathed themselves in alcohol. I started talking to them. I said, man, you are killing yourself. Listen, let's do this, do that. Let's go back to school. Let's become positive about our lives. So while I was mentoring this kid, one of the kid I met, he had sisters, young sisters. And I asked him how old these sisters. He said they were 14, and they were freshmen in high school and a sophomore in high school. And I asked him where these kids are. He said they live in Houston, Texas. So I tried to figure out how these kids ended up here, how these kids live, but I could not get like a clear answer. So what I did, I drove to Texas. Me and my wife, we went there. We got to Texas. We figured out how these kids, the way they got here, it was, they came, the I-20 was not complete. I don't know how they got here. So I started talking to the family because the kids, one of them had torn her ACL, another one has a gum disease, and this was young teenagers. And nobody was taking care of them. So I talked to the family. I said, you know what, let's see if you can help these kids. So I brought the kids in Indianapolis to my house, and me and my wife at that time were fiancé. We rushed to get married and make sure that we take care of these kids. So while we were going to court to get the legal guardianship, one of the young girls, one of them looked at the paper. It said temporary legal guardianship. She started crying. I said, why are you crying? She said, why everything in our lives is always temporary? So I said, I didn't know what to say. And she's like, can you please adopt us? I said, yes. So we went ahead, me and my wife got married. We were like 3 people in our wedding. So we get married as soon as possible, and we adopt them because it was rushing. We were making sure that the system doesn't take them away from us. So we live with the girls. They came to us with a 0 GPA. Now they're honor student. Very, very bright. One of them just went to college on a partial academic scholarship. The other one is still in high school. She's probably going to go to college on a full scholarship. But if you see these kids, where they are heading and where they're right now, it's a miracle. So especially the young one, she's very, very funny. She's a comedian. Last week I went to pick her up from job, and she came running. She was like, Daddy, guess what? I'm like, what's going on, Liliane? She was like, my job offered me a full-time position when I finished high school. I said, yes, that's good. That's, perfect. She said, okay, once I figure out about my school schedule and my work schedule, I may pick up an extra shift so I can have my mom retire. So I said, do you know your mom is less than 30 years? She was like, I know. I was like, why do you want to have your mom retire? She was like, because she deserved it. I was like, first of all, my mom is not Rwandan. My mom is American. She sacrificed her life at the age of 24 to adopt us. and me and my sister. And now I think it's our time to help her so she doesn't have to worry about us. So I was like, that's wonderful. And I said, what about me? She said, she looked at me. She's like, aren't you orphan like us? When we I was like, what me being orphan has to do with your mom retirement? She was like, she's, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to laugh. So she was like, first, all the orphans, all survivors should take care of the young ones. And that's why when I get my paycheck, I'm gonna start putting $20 away so I can take care of the young ones back in Africa. Because she was like, this suffering, this orphanage, this foster care thing has to stop. And talking about self-reliance, she said, we're the only ones who need to help ourselves so the kids don't grow up in this bitter and commit another genocide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kizito, for your testimony. It's actually a fact that it's very rare to hear male testimonies with regards to the genocide against Tutsis. So it's important to hear your testimony. We appreciate you opening your heart to us with a sense of humor that you still have through a very difficult time. And it's an example of not only of a person who's talking about his story, but how he managed to help other survivors who he found in desperate need and adopted them. So thank you so much for sharing that, Kizito. Next, we have a candlelighting ceremony led by Dylan Mugambizi, David Mombello, Rene Mugabo, and Brave Kamandana.
I light this candle as we remember our dark past and we move towards a bright future.
I light this candle for the families who died together without a survivor to tell their stories.
I light this candle for the soldiers who died fighting to end the genocide.
I light this candle to carry the torch and keep the promise, never again.